when we were talking about how can we help these people in attendance understand something about addiction and something about what we do in Abbeycare, what we decided was that anybody that came here had some sort of investment in addiction, an interest, whether it was professional or personal. Is that fair to say? Everybody here because they're interested? Why would you not? Maybe you come for a snooze. You've come to the wrong workshop. Because what we're going to do is we're going to invite you to experience something that we might do, a taster of what we might do in rehab. Yeah? So you become the clients of Abbeycare. MD frightened. Because we have such a limited amount of time, we're going to kind of go quicker than we had anticipated. We had planned for maybe 10 people. We were going to get to know you and get in between you and be with you and try and give you some, not just advice, not just information, but actually to feel each other, to be in each other's presence. And that's because that's what we ask our clients at Abbeycare to do. We say, come in and trust us. Be with us. Let us help. Learn how to ask for help. People tend to arrive at Abbeycare a bit, at best, bruised, if not broken. So, and we're saying, take a leap of faith. So we're asking you to do the same thing today. We're asking you to take a bit of a leap of faith, yeah, to enter into your truth. You know, what disturbs you. And you'll see David has given out a piece of paper. Yeah? So what we're asking you to do is just answer for yourself the first two questions. Questions A and B. The first one, the idea that there might be something that you've tried to stop but you can't. Or there's something that kind of disturbs you about you that you notice. Why do I keep doing that same thing? You know, every weekend, every Sunday, I commit to not having bread on Monday. And every Tuesday, I beat myself up because I had some bread. You know, it can be as simple and as complex as that. Human behaviour is complex. So, can everybody just think about something that, remember David was saying earlier, that kind of bends you out of shape? You know, do you say no when you mean yes? Do you say yes when you mean no? Well, that's more likely, isn't it? No, I don't want to do that, and then you find yourself doing it. Do you drink too much coffee? There was a bit of shift. What I noticed when David was speaking earlier was a bit of shift in the room when he was talking about workaholics. Ooh. Do you do too much? Do you know someone who does too much? So take a moment and just answer the first question.
And you don't have to show this. We're not going to sort of stick it on Facebook afterwards.
Oh no, it's been filmed.
Or will we? No. You know, so it's just keep it to yourself. It's just an opportunity to maybe for the first time put down in writing something that you suspect. And that's a good way to test whether it has any resonance.
Has everyone managed to identify something? Something. So keep it yourself, hide it. Keep it safe. Don't expose it. Don't allow other people to know your truth. And now look at question B, the second question. A belief, a negative belief that you hold about yourself. An idea that you have that you know is maladaptive, it's unhelpful. But it's there, it's established. You know, I'm just no good enough, could do better. If only. I should have. I'm a failure. I never get it right. You know, those ideas, is that common? Can people relate to that? Yes, no? Yes, Marie? Yeah. Because it's the human condition. We have negative core beliefs about ourselves, others, and the world. But for this purpose, we're interested in you. What do you believe to be true about yourself? Anyone not managed to do that? Sorry, I know we're pushing you on. Done that, no bother? You've not managed to do it? So, excellent. So you're someone who has very positive ideas about themselves. Someone who has very strong self-esteem. Oh, not so sure? Probably. Oh, it's ambiguous, isn't it? Probably. Because I could say, well, probably not. You know, again, we are made up of core beliefs, some positive and some negative. I've never met a human being that doesn't have a negative idea about themselves. Right at our very core, we have ideas that maybe we're different or we could improve, or, you know, that why do I never get the best looking guy in the room? You know, whatever it might be. So I'll do a wee bit of work with you. Yeah? So now we've got, has everybody else managed to identify something? Yeah? Excellent. Now sit beside someone or speak to someone that you don't know. Do you know each other? Just curry in. Do you understand that language? Curry in. Get together. Yeah? So I'm going to, sorry, what's your name? Lucy. Lucy, I'm going to come to you, Lucy. Fabulous. And now what you're going to do, without divulging what your issue, your challenges, your idea about yourself, without divulging that explicitly, chat to your partner about how believing what you do believe about yourself, or how hanging on to that thing that you can't change or you have difficulty changing, how it serves you. You're not allowed to speak about the thing itself. So whatever you've written in the paper, try resist saying that. You might out yourself. There's no punishment exercise, but attempt to say how it serves you. And conversely, what's the cost? Yeah, so it's like a cost and benefit question. Does that make sense? And we'll come among you once I've helped Lucy realise that she's failed, that she's flawed, that she's the same as all the rest of us. Once I've done it, David and I will just pop round, so if anybody's struggling, let us know. Is that doable? So I respond really well to, yes, Marie. Thank you. So do that. We're just going to spend a few minutes, yeah? So hear each other.
Okay. So hopefully you've had enough time to just have an assessment, isn't it? It's assessing how does the thing that you can't seem to control or stop, and yet there's the saying, all behaviour earns its keep. So it's complicated. You know, it can serve you in some way. In fact, I'd be surprised if it doesn't serve you. That's how it's got set up. But then, of course, you cross the line and it starts to not serve you, and yet you appear to carry on. I mean, that's illogical. And that is this idea of powerlessness. So if you look at the next box, it's trying to get you to put a score in there. I think we'll just keep it simple. So just put one, between 0 and 10, where 0 is, so can we all agree, I'm powerless over the weather. Even if I try really hard, in 20 years' time, I'm still not going to be able to influence the weather. Powerless. I'm powerless over the weather. It does what it does. I react to it. Score in this next box, 0 to 10, Where 0 is, no, I'm gonna try a few things to control. I'm still gonna do some stuff to influence what you put in box A. Where 10 would be, I've had enough. I can't do it. I've tried. Does that make sense? There's no right or wrong answer. You just put a number in that box between 0 and 10. Just be as honest as you can. So you may intellectually think, yes, I understand. But the truth is, you're going to try again. You've still got a cunning plan. Yeah, and that's okay as well. There's no right or wrong. So that's box, what are we calling that? Box 5. Now, box 6 is the consequences. It's the so what. So I can't help myself. I drink a bottle of whiskey a day, but there are no discernible consequences. So what's the problem? Well, none. That wasn't the case. I'd have liked it to have been like that, but that wasn't the case. So when you look at the thing that you've written in box A, to what extent is it creating unmanageable consequences? Where 0 would be, there aren't really any. It's fine. Through to 10, which would be, I really can't be doing this anymore. This is getting out of hand. Does that make sense? Again, there's no right or wrong. Just allow yourself to be honest. Okay?
Okay. Everybody managed to do that? I love that you keep laughing and nodding to your partner at this side. Do you realise you're doing that? No, you're in front of you. Sorry, yeah. You're doing a lot of nodding. I'm like, yeah. No, I'm saying it because I like it, because I feel engaged. Remember this morning? We were hearing about engagement and the usefulness of that. So now the next box is asking you about behaviours. And I'm asking you now to openly share some of the strategies you've adopted to deal with your ideas about yourself or the problem state. Let's call it a problem state. Question A. Can anybody share what strategies, what behaviours have you adopted to try and address the problem? Can I, because we're being filmed, can I give you the microphone, please? Ricky Lake.
Normally a bellow. So I've sought other people's views to counter my own, or in the hope that they maybe counter my own.
So seeking out other people who may approve or who may disagree with you. Yeah, prove me wrong. Yeah, reinforce my negative ideas about myself. Yeah, fantastic. Anybody else?
Stall for time. So rather than react immediately, I try and train myself to take time before I would react.
And does that work for you?
No, not normally. I normally tie myself in knots while I'm stalling for time.
Excellent. So there's an intention, but it's almost like the behaviour happens before the brain's really engaged. So you have the idea, and before you know it, you're in the behaviour. Fantastic. Anybody else? What have you done? What do you do? Off. Yeah, you should, David, but never mind.
Just try and do nothing. So, like, be quiet. Just.
So avoidance. Say nothing. Ask for no help. Don't look for support. Whether it's support to support your negative ideas or support to hear an alternative view. So you're an avoider. How does that sit with you? Yeah. Welcome to my world.
The trouble is I don't manage to avoid that.
So say that again.
The trouble is I don't manage to avoid.
Yeah. What do you do?
Just do the thing that I don't like.
Absolutely. So you revert back to type. Yeah, 'cause it's difficult to get away from it, isn't it? Any other behaviours? Yes.
Probably trying to listen to the
the really quiet voice in my head versus the one that's screaming, "Oh, you should do this," which is hard sometimes. It takes a lot of training and probably a quiet zone or place where you can go away and just stop
Absolutely.
and think.
So that sounds quite healthy. We talk about, I'll often talk about with our clients about turning up the volume in that voice. Because often we have it, the voice of reason. But when we're under threat, and when that we're triggered in whatever way from our problem state, let's just call it that, then it feels like a threat. So avoiding doing the very thing that you know is not good for you is too difficult. Because we're under threat. And when we're under threat, our primitive brain, our old brain, which is that size, it's tiny, 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 gets switched on. And we can't access our rational brain, our new brain. We can't, we're back, we're a lizard. We're on the stone again, and we are just, the only thing we need to know is it safe or is it dangerous? That's all we need to know. So accessing that logic is really difficult. But what's interesting is that you're not completely in threat because you can hear it. So it's about how do you learn to turn the volume up and turn the volume down? Well, again, none of this is easy. This is the human condition. Of course, we're talking about addicts, we're talking about addiction, but we're talking about human beings. Well, human beings are addicts. Addicts are not human beings. It goes the other way. Does that make sense, what I just said there? You know, we're talking about the human condition. I was thinking about myself there, and I do things like I buy another book because the answer to my problem is in a book. So I buy another book. I listen to another speaker. I'll go on another course. I've got unrelenting standards. It's never good enough. Could do better. Next time, you're not as good as him. Oh, she's better than you. That voice. So I keep doing what doesn't work for me. Because it's old stuff. Goes way back to primary school. But that's what we're up against, isn't it? We're up against ourselves. The battle's here. We're battling with ourselves. Anybody else need to share anything? Are prepared to share anything before we move on?
Can you identify with some of the things that have been said? Because that's, again, frequently that's the, you know, sometimes we're unable to say the unspeakable truth. Someone else says it. And what that tells us is we're not alone. And that's worth its weight in gold often. So, you know, groups are really quite powerful. So the next box.
Well, it's about success. How successful have your strategies been? So we've heard people sharing, but well, they're not successful. You know, it results in me reverting back to the very thing I'm trying not to do. So there is. So again, just measuring that for yourself. Was it successful or not? It tends not to be, doesn't it? This time I'm always like, next time, tomorrow. It's always mañana. Well, I'm a believer.
So which way round? Zero is, it really works. All my strategies work really well. And 10 would be, they're not working. It's not successful. Okay?
How are we doing for time?
About 10 minutes.
Okay. So here's an interesting box. The box asks, reflect on box A and what you identified as a problem, an issue, a challenge. And consider how that impacts in box B. What is the relationship between the problem and your idea about yourself, your belief system, ideas that you hold about yourself? What is the relationship? When that happens, I think about myself this way. Or when I do that, that belief is what happens? Well, you can, yeah. You're looking a wee bit puzzled. Do you need to say something? You sure? You're thinking out loud, and it's all over your face. It's brilliant.
One will feed the other. That's what we find.
Yeah.
So if you remember what I was saying this morning, was it this morning? Yeah. This slightly paradoxical thing of if you're dealing with alcoholism, drug addiction, perversely, we're not really teaching people how to stop or control, because what you've written isn't, you can't do that. You know, imagine telling an alcoholic to stop drinking. Why would you do that? Just hear the sound of your own voice, because that's insane. What we find is that it links in. One feeds the other. It feeds the deeper beliefs about self. And that's what recovery is about. And what recovery is about is saying we need to celebrate all that we are, not just the good, so the light and the shadow. But we need to get into the shadow. And that's really what rehab's about. It's getting people to articulate in some way what, I'm a failure and a fraud. Always have been, always will be. I fear I'll be rejected. I'll always be abandoned. And that we celebrate that, because that is not all that you are. Now, this is humans, so we've come out of the realm now of addicts and alcoholics, because the addicts and alcoholic, that's the symptom bit. You know, the drug use and the alcoholism. Now we're getting into what lurks in the dark, in the shadow. But you've been feeding it. And there's a payoff. You know, it does feed it rather well. That's what we usually find. But again, it's this idea we need to celebrate all that we are. The good, the bad, and the ugly. That's what makes us authentic. Often say to the clients, we need you to leave here where you feel you're not blackmailable. What are you still hanging on to? A terrible secret, you see. Will it make you blackmailable? And life's a lot better if you're not. Does that make sense? So we're on, where are we? Yeah. So basically with powerlessness and unmanageability, it's really saying it's kind of over, you see, that you've got nowhere to go. You can keep with your cunning plans. How long do you think you've been aware of the issue in A? How long have you been trying to sort it out? Are we talking months or years? Or years? We've got a few. Yeah. So it didn't happen last Wednesday, and you're a bit perplexed now. This happened a while ago, did it? You see, and the idea is, have you had enough of you, through force of will, trying to sort it out? And that's where this takes us to. It takes us to this place of, what are you going to do next? Well, what we want you to do next is stop. Just give up. You will never sort this thing out on your own. That's the idea. Because if you could, you would. Well, you're an idiot. You know, I mean, you would, wouldn't you? Or if your friends knew how to sort it out, they would have told you, wouldn't they? Does that make sense? What do you think about what I'm saying? Does it resonate, or is it heresy? Is it? Yeah.
So I believe what you're saying must be true, because you know a lot more about it than I do. But I struggle to accept it, because I think we're raised to feel like we can fix our problems and there's always a way around, and you know. Absolutely.
Yeah. So these rules, isn't it? It's these rules that get in the way. Because a lot of the rules are what we call maladaptive. They used to work, but they don't work anymore. But we can't let go of them because they're our last line of defense. For you not to sort it out yourself, what would that say about you in your culture? A failure. Is that something you... Is that something you might have put in box B? The man's an idiot. Yeah. Well, that would be me as well. I'm a failure and a fraud. Have been all my life, always will be. But it's okay now. I don't have to stick a needle in my arm. It's part of who I am, but it's not all that I am. So it's this idea of, it's a paradox again, isn't it? Is in order to get some control, you have to let go. Because the empirical evidence is you don't appear to be doing very well sorting this problem out. Is that fair? So stop. Stop trying to sort it out. But then you need to do something else.
Well, I think you hit it in the head there. It's about something about acceptance, isn't it? When we surrender to our truth. And we talk a lot in rehabilitation about surrendering. About that, you know, have you had enough? People will often say, I've had enough. Really? You don't look like somebody that's had enough. You don't speak like somebody that's had enough. Because, you know, a gin and tonic in the beer garden in the summer day, you know. Well, we don't have a lot of summer days in Scotland. But surrendering is a process. It's not an event. It's not something you arrive at, oh, I've changed my mind today, I'm going to surrender to my truth. It's a process. And that's what the programme at Abbeycare does. It invites people into a process, a change of believing differently, of having the opportunity to challenge their own thought processes, to really examine their own behaviour and to accept themselves as they are today. And then amazing things can happen. I mean, it's incredible that we say to people, the minute you surrender, you probably become the most empowered you've been for a long, long time. So it's another paradox that David was talking about this morning. It's paradoxical. Surrender and be empowered. But it's surrendering to the fact that you cannot control your substance of choice. Your addiction cannot be controlled. And the minute you understand that, you accept that, then you step into the land of possibility. Stop trying to control the thing you can't control. Does that make sense? It's a bit difficult to get your head round. Does it make sense? Because it's difficult as well because it's not an intellectual process. Do you remember David saying that this morning? We have to have mind and body in sync. Yeah? So I think it, I feel it, I know what that feels like, both emotionally and physically. And then I can behave as though it's true. I can see myself, accept myself, and do differently. So I have no power over that, but now I can choose. Does that make sense? Does it? Don't say yes if you mean no. And if you are saying yes when you mean no, is that in your forum?
Just in the final box, just put, so that you've got something to take away, isn't it? Your sense of how ready do you think you are to just give up? 0 would be no. Nope. That's okay. 10 out of 10 would be, what do we do? Tell me. I give up. The war's over, you lost. That's a state of grace. So just put a number in, feel it, I guess. We've sort of run out of time. I think that the thing to say is, and obviously at this point, when we're working with clients, it's introducing this spiritual component, isn't it? It's introducing the other, that you can't do this alone, and that hopefully you got a sense of it when you were talking to a complete stranger and actually revealing yourself. That's what we mean by a spiritual component, that we someone else outside of us, the ego, is allowed in. And that's what's behind all of the fellowships. That's fundamentally behind a lot of the models that we use. CBT, psychotherapy, psychosynthesis. So you can't do this alone. Embrace that and get help.